Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. A number of the readings that I have done lately have introduced or involved the concept that folks in this collective have been going through a major death and rebirth cycle lately. So I've been guided to center my next pick a card around the topic of what this rebirth is bringing you into, what this new you might look like, or what the new evolution of you might involve. So this might involve things to look forward to, it might involve guidance, it might involve some revelations, it might involve some reassurance. I'm not sure yet, we're going to find out, but we're asking about what this rebirth is bringing you into and what you need to know about that to help you with easing the rebirth and the process of this evolution and this journey, this transition. So to pull the significator cards for the piles, I've been guided to use the Naked Heart Tarot. And for pile 1, we have the Sun, the 19th Major Arcana. I almost never used this deck up until now, so it's kind of a revelation to me. Okay. And then for pile 2, we have the Page of Swords. That is just adorable. Oh my gosh. Love the geometry on these cards as well. And that did come out reversed for pile 2. And we'll see how that plays into pile 2's reading. And we have the 10 of Cups for pile 3. Is that reversed or upright, Spirit? They're telling me to put that one upright. Okay. All right, so the Sun for pile 1, the Page of Swords, the Innocence of Swords for pile 2, and the 10 of Cups for pile 3. I'm excited to see you at your reading. Hello, pile 3. Welcome to your reading. This is your pile, your reading, if you chose the 10 of Cups card from the Naked Heart Tarot, which I'm going to shuffle to get more messages. I've started in the days intervening between when I pulled the significator cards and posted pile 1 and pile 2, and now to get a few downloads about the significance of this 10 of Cups card in the context of your reading, pile 3, but I'm really being drawn to pull more cards first to confirm and clarify the messages I've started getting before we get into them. So let's see what we get. Messages, spirit guides, tap me in, spirit guides, to pile 3, and please bring us some messages about the rebirth pile 3 is going through and where it is bringing them, what they can look forward to, gifts, guidance, what they're embodying now. Three of Swords reversed. I have not used this deck very much, and I'm really starting to appreciate some of the artwork on it even more than I already did when I, of course, first acquired it. Three of Swords reversed. The Sun. This is pile 1's significator, so some of you may have been drawn to pile 1 as well. If you were, that's some confirmation there. Spirit of Wands. Let me double check the guidebook for that. I just want to make sure, because I forget sometimes what the correlations are. I think the Spirit of Wands, let me just check here before I say what I think it is in correlation to the regular chord cards. Yes, it's the King of Wands. I wasn't sure if it was the King or the Knight off the top of my head, and it is the King of Wands. Really fascinating energy here. I'm going to need some clarification, Spirit. They're advising me, my spirit guides are guiding me to read the King of Wands description from the Naked Heart Tarot guidebook. Every guidebook is different in terms of which order it lists the suits in. All right, Spirit of Wands, King. Here's this in case you feel called to screenshot or save any of these messages. So it's correlated to the astrological sign of Leo because of the fire element in the wands suit, and there's the Leo symbol hidden, tucked away next to this lizard here. I actually don't usually correlate the King of Wands to Leo myself, but it does actually make a lot of sense. I usually correlate Leo with the Queen of Wands myself, because the Queen of Wands I associate with immense popularity and flair. But I like seeing the King of Wands in this light. Let's see what else they say about it here. I am the spirit of my spiritual path. I am being encouraged to keep moving forward because I am mastering my journey. I am being asked to share my wisdom with others. I can help others move forward in alignment with their passions. And this did come out upright, so the upright personality traits are an enthusiastic leader with a desire to motivate others, outwardly confident and inspiration to others, charming and compassionate protector, visionary of dreams and brings them into reality, inspired by success, a natural delegator, determined and focused on achieving goals. And I'm also being called to take a look at the Three of Swords description in this particular deck before we move on. Sorrow, sadness, and release are the key words here. When I tune into my feelings of hurt, they direct me to the thoughts that are linked to the pain. When I get present with this place, it allows me to get curious about what I need to release and let go. As I drop into these feelings and release the pain, it helps make space for new beliefs to emerge and positive thoughts to follow. I recommit to my strength. As the pain shifts, I slowly come back into alignment with what serves my highest best. I had this on the screen for a moment, but I'm going to put it back on camera again because it's such a beautiful message. So if you'd like to screenshot that, I'm going to save that to remind myself. And this deck correlates the Three of Swords with the Crow Familiar here, and says that the Crow Familiar whispers, a gentle breath can help release emotions in subtle, small shifts. Each breath counts towards the big picture. And the reversed offering that they give here is a question to ask yourself in case you are disconnected with your heart. And it says, I ask myself, is it possible that regret causes confusion or that confusion causes regret? That's a very interesting meaning to apply to the Three of Swords, because the swords element being the air element, the sword suit correlating to the air element, they are all about clarity, the precision of slicing through something with incisive insight, incisive discernment. So there is there's always with the Three of Swords a strong message of healing, of the swords falling out of the wound and it being able to heal. So the Three of Swords message overall here is really deeply resonant of what it is that is propelling you into this next phase of your rebirth and of your life, especially with the sun, which does represent a healing light from source as well. So that immediately following your Three of Swords represents the sunrise after the dark night here. And the sunlight pouring into the wounds that were blocked by the metaphorical swords until the thorns were pulled out and the wounds were able to be loved and provided healing salve and healing light, regenerative energy, that golden light of source and of love that we need sometimes to be reminded to pour into our wounds or to ask others to help us pour into our wounds. We sometimes need to remember that that light is available to us when it feels as though we've been cut off from it and nothing has really truly happened other than a veil coming over our perception, our gaze. And so this message is offering the incisive wisdom to slice that veil away and allow the sunlight to pour into the wounds and the light of consciousness to pour into the thoughts and beliefs around, within, or attached to the feelings, riding alongside along with the feelings and questioning them, are they true? Would I still regret this situation if I saw it clearly? Is there anything I'm not seeing clearly about this situation? Are the regrets really just that I'm beating myself up because it's so painful to let in the reality that whatever went wrong in this situation was actually out of my control. That in order to fight, to get some sort of control over what hurt me and whether I can prevent it from happening again, I would put myself through the pain of beating myself up and having regrets hanging over my head. And there's a realization that I'm being told has already happened for this pile about those types of paradigms, that is allowing those paradigms to be washed away and cleansed very effortlessly, leaving only the light behind. That's the message that is being channeled through for us here. And then the Ten of Cups shows us the rainbow after the storm. The King of Wands shows us the self-mastery that is born of that type of committed determination to carrying the torch, like the King of Wands, of that sunlight into your own deepest, darkest, most vulnerable places. And there's a great deal of mastery of focus and attention and manifestation that comes from being willing to turn over the rocks that are unpleasant and to allow them to be washed by the healing light and healing water of Source and of your own love, your own consciousness, to view those parts of you tenderly and with love. And that may be the strongest theme so far that I'm seeing connecting this to pile 1. So you may find more messages about that specifically in pile 1. Is there anything else about that, Spirit? Okay. The spirit guides for this collective are coming through specifically to kind of place a gentle hand on you, you know, on your face, on your back, wherever you find it comforting. And to get your attention in that very gentle, comforting way and kind of rock you as a caregiver might a child. And in that gentle, caregiving place to whisper to you, some variation on "it's not your fault." For some of you, just "it's not your fault" will resonate. But for some of you, it may be a different variation of that resonates more. So something about this concept of regret that the Three of Swords message gave us, where your spirit guides are letting you know that it's safe to not regret this, that you actually didn't do anything wrong, that you actually did a very good job of responding to this situation, and that it's okay. Yeah, they're giving me this image of someone holding a sword in their own chest, curled up around it, kind of in shock, and as a result of the shock, not really having gathered their wits about them enough yet to take a deep breath and pull the sword out and allow the wound to heal. And there is also within that a terror of letting the wound bleed first and acknowledging that this really happened. The wound, letting the wound be real. It does hurt and frankly suck that we do have to let the horrible thing have happened in order to be able to heal from it. That defensive posture of like, I can't let this in, that this even happened, that frozen in shock. It's not even necessarily a conscious choice to be in denial in that way, but that frozenness in a state of shock can become the greatest factor preventing the wound from ever healing, the sword from ever coming out. And so there's a great gentleness at the same time as, and this goes with the King of Wands and the Sun, a great courage in pulling the sword out or simply taking a deep breath and releasing your frozen posture such that it simply falls out. There's a Sanskrit mantra that loosely translates to things that are no longer serving you falling away like a ripe cucumber from the vine, and that just flashed into my head. I'm being guided to pull a few cards from the Legendary Ladies Oracle deck, which I just got the other day, to bring through more clarification that will illuminate our path to the Ten of Cups, which has a lot of messages for us that we haven't gotten to yet, because I've been called here to dive a little bit into that dark night that precedes the dawn, the sun, before we really dive into the messages that the Ten of Cups is so overflowing with all these ocean waves inside the cups to bring to you. So there's a lot of excitement and joy from this card, but there's a little bit of a sting still needing to be released, poison needing to be sucked out from the wound, and a transition that this message needs to bridge here. And I'm being guided to first start building this bridge with this Legendary Ladies deck. So this is my first time using this deck on camera. Let's go. What does pile 3 need to hear? I do not know how to pronounce this, but this is the Reinvention card. There's definitely a strong synchronicity with, of course, the whole topic being Rebirth, but then this being pile 3's card with the rainbow on this card and the rainbow in the Ten of Cups. Huge synchronicity there. And then we also have the salamander in the King of Wands eating its tail and shedding its skin, and we have the snake curled up in the Reinvention card. And this shedding of the snake skin is also such a strong symbol in so many cultures of rebirth in general. Shedding your skin and coming out shiny and new like these polished gemstones in the Ten of Cups. I'm getting such kindness and compassion through the figure, the archetype in this Reinvention card. Spirit guides and potentially real people, not that spirit guides aren't real, but physical people in your life, maybe even animal companions who are present with you, holding your hand literally or metaphorically and breathing through this moment of this sting from the Three of Swords reversed with you, and inspiring you as the King of Wands does. Part of inspiration. This is a really cool message that's coming through, so thanks for bearing with me if I need to pause to gather my words around it. Part of inspiration that is so key for those of us, especially, you probably know this if you've gone through any mental health challenges, but this comes in physical health challenges and so many other areas of life as well. One of the greatest gifts that people in our lives, whether they're friends, family, professionals, energy workers, therapists, what have you, physical therapists when you're healing from an injury, one of the greatest gifts people in our lives can give us is seeing and believing in our potential before we see it ourselves, believing in your beauty before you see it yourself, believing in your ability to walk unhindered after a knee replacement before you are seeing the results from your physical therapy, believing in your ability to love again before you've healed from the breakup or the relationship that carried abuse. And I'm getting such kindness and compassion from this message. I hope you have people in your lives who inspire you in that way by holding the best version of you in their sights and believing in it even when you're not at your best. Not in the sense of putting up with BS, but in the sense of it's okay that you're not at your best. No one is at their best all the time. I still believe the best of you, and I'm here to breathe with you through this situation because I know you're going to come out on the other side, and I see the light at the end of the tunnel, even though you are sobbing and doubled up in pain and can't look up to see it yet, or can't see through your tears to see it yet. I see it, and I'm going to walk you there. I'm going to walk you home. I'm going to walk you home when you call me because you're too drunk to figure out how to get home yourself. This type of energy is really coming through. And for some of you, I do think this is signifying friendships and companions in your life who fill this role for you. You know, I just heard be the person your dog thinks you are, or your pet thinks you are, because that is a common, in some circles of the internet, a common adage. But it's also a reminder that this is also how Spirit sees you. This is so funny. Like 3 days ago, I saw a billboard for a church in my area. This tells you about where I live. There are billboards for churches. But this particular billboard is a lovely one because it says in these big bold letters, God is not angry with you. And I've mentioned in another reading recently, maybe you were here for that one as well, because it came through as part of the message. There's a church I've seen in years past in a place where I used to live that had the slogan that I loved that said, God's not mad at you, God is madly in love with you. And there's a reminder from here about this regret and beating yourself up type of energy, that this is not actually how the universe sees you. The universe does not see you as needing to be fixed or corrected or punished or made into something better so that you can be worthy or good enough. The universe sees you as simply needing to have the veil cut away from your eyes so that you can see how close you actually are to your own potential and how filled and radiant you are with your own sunlight, how you are the sun, rather than, you know, some people have grown up with very traumatic versions of Christianity or other religions where the message they've received has been that you must humble yourself before this external source of light and hope and pray to make yourself worthy of that light that shines upon you but that you do not deserve. And this is quite the opposite of that. This is very much a tearing down of that messaging, of that veil that separates you from your own light. The universe wants you to remember that you are the universe, you are God, you are Source, wearing the clothing of a human, wearing the clothing of human form. You are all the colors of the rainbow. You just happen to be being distilled at this particular moment in time that is this lifetime by this specific form, this specific incarnation, this specific shade of light that you are specializing in this lifetime. This is building a bridge for me between this Three of Swords energy and this Ten of Cups energy. Specifically, one of the messages that I was getting over the weekend in between doing pile 1 and 2's readings and doing your reading, pile 3, was that the rainbow crystals in this Ten of Cups reading are actually signifying LGBT pride for a lot of the people who are called to pile 3. If it doesn't signify that for you, it does signify embodying the full glorious rainbow colors of your being flamboyant, even if people that you grew up with might consider it garish or consider being flamboyant a bad thing instead of a beautiful thing, the way I see it. I love flamboyancy. I'm like, oh my God, I wish I were as cool as you when I see someone being flamboyant in any way, right? Like, that's me. But a lot of people don't share that opinion, and that's their loss. So whether embodying the full vibrant rainbow of your being is being an artist or an energy worker when people that you grew up around said you could never make a living off of art, or that people are lying if they say they're psychic or they can do energy work and they're just duping their clients, then it doesn't, whichever that is, it's this embodying the full set of colors in your paint palette without shying away from any or shunning any. We even have like the purple almost hiding beneath the much bigger red, yellow, and green crystals. And in the chakra system, the blue represents the throat chakra and the purple represents the crown chakra, which represents your connection to your own soul as well as to spirit and the universe in general. And then, of course, the throat chakra, your freedom of expression, and the red is even hiding a little bit here, which is in correlation with the root chakra, representative of your sense of safety and security in life, in your body, and in your connections with other people and the world around you. So there's this sense of your connection to your own being and to source itself and spiritual guidance coming out of hiding, the blue shoot coming up from underneath to express yourself into the world, and this allowing a greater sense of safety and security to be fostered in your being. And the Ten of Cups is a happy family card, so this also allowing this embodiment of the full rainbow of your being, allowing the people, showing the people around you who you are, such that the people who love that can pour into you. And there's a willingness with the Three of Swords reversed in cutting away that veil to also sever ties with the people who see the full rainbow of your being and flinch away. And I'm really getting a very strong message that some of you are in the process of cutting or recently have cut ties with family members or people, exes, ex-friends, what have you, but especially family members I'm getting for some of you, who mistreated you in the past, who maybe rejected you for being LGBT+, or for other things about you, who instilled a self-concept of you always having to live in an energy of regret and of diminishing yourself, deprecating yourself or depreciating yourself, self-flagellation. There's a real strong feeling coming through here that some of you were taught that was the only way to be good, was to be constantly self-flagellating, which does resonate with me too, but it resonates from considerably farther in the past for me than it does for those of you who were called to this pile. And if this isn't resonating with you, then maybe there are other messages, just parts of the message in this pile that are for you, or maybe another pile is your pile. But a real strong feeling that this is a fresh, that this is an old wound for many of you, but that the facing and confronting of it, the turning over of that stone and pulling out the thorn, or pulling out the sword, letting it fall away so that the wound can bleed and then quickly be healed, is fresh for many of you in this pile, if not the majority of you. And there's this just the openness of this rainbow and of this ocean, and the generous, like, not even thinking about it, pouring out of the water from this jug in this reinvention card, because there's an ocean. Why would she or they be concerned about how much water they're pouring out over you to heal your wounds when they have a whole ocean of love available to them and healing available to them? That's Source. That's God. That's the universe. You can't possibly take up too much space. The universe is infinite. You can't possibly take up too much time or be an inconvenience. The universe is infinite. There is so much to go around that no one could possibly ever put a dent in it in terms of the love of the Sorcerer of the universe, the healing, the tenderness, the attention. You're not stealing anything from anyone else. The universe is not a zero-sum game. It's not a finite piece of pie. You can eat the whole damn pie. There's a whole sea, an infinity of sea of pies. And this is a revelation for a lot of you. For some of you, this may be a longer self-worth journey you've been on, and so you've had this revelation in other areas of your psyche or your life in the past, but there's a new layer of it coming to light. For a lot of you, this is feeling really fresh, like this is the first time that you have experienced the reality that the world, when you cut this veil away of confusion, of brainwashing, of guilt — I just heard Catholic guilt, so that may resonate for some of you — religious indoctrination, dogma, when these veils are cut away, ultimately at the end of the day, a veil of shame, regardless of which of those sources, if any, it may have come from. It may not have come from any of those, but from a different source. When that veil of shame is cut away, reality is simply a fact that you do not have to self-flagellate to be good. I'm hearing that Mary Oliver poem, Wild Geese. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 1,000 miles through the desert. You simply have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. And that is really coming back again to that queer pride message, which actually makes me choke up a little bit. And by the way, I pulled these cards before June started, and I genuinely had forgotten that June was Pride Month, at least in the US, until after June had already started, and I started getting these downloads about this rainbow actually correlating to gay pride before I remembered that it was Pride Month, and I was like, are you kidding me? Of course, perfect divine timing. So, this is, I'm looking at this Sun card, and there was a message in pile 1 with the Sun card about the wings coming out of this beetle, and you can listen to pile 1 if you want to hear the version of that message, because it's a very different version, but a similar theme. But I'm being drawn to it to give a very different version of this same theme for this pile, which is that these wings that you always thought you had to spend your whole life self-harming, essentially, and in shame to even hope to deserve someday after this life. And even then, you still would never really be worthy of it. You're in this process of having cut away the veil and discovering that those wings were always there all along and were always yours, and that God, Source, the universe, is actually delighted for you to have them, to see them, to use them, to relish them and savor them and celebrate them and have that healthy, happy pride in it, rather than this, arrogant, putting other people down type of pride that, in my opinion, is what the deadly sin is supposed to be about. Not just all versions of pride, right? Like, there are very wonderful versions of pride that everyone should have and that everyone deserves to feel and experience in their life and does not have to earn. But you have earned a whole lot of pride in yourself by turning your world upside down, turning your worldview upside down, being willing to cut away these sort of necrotic limbs of the ties with things that were hurting you and infecting your life and poisoning your heart. Like blood poisoning happens when a necrotic limb is not severed. That's how this metaphor is coming through to me from your spirit guides, pile 3. The bravery that it takes to undergo that amputation and then realize, wait a second, I actually had my own 2 legs that I could stand on the whole time. Or I had my own heart the whole time. I wasn't really cutting out my heart when I cut out that person. That doesn't mean there isn't real grief and real wounding, real metaphorical bleeding, but there's a real, you have your own source of self-worth, of love, your own heart, your own metaphorical legs to stand on in terms of knowing yourself and knowing who you really are and the worth of that being. The same way that you would never question the worth of a little infant or a little kitten. Again, the power of pets to remind you of who you really are and what love really is, because you look at your pet and you see this innocence and you go, wait a second, that not only might that be how my pet views me as also innocent, but that's also how I view children or infants. And when does that really expire? Does that ever really stop? Am I actually really maybe that innocent too? Are there parts of me that are that innocent that I can cut away this veil that is obscuring them and allow them to take up space in my body, in my life, in the way I express myself, in the words I speak? Can I allow that loving innocence to permeate how I speak to others, to be embodied in how I treat myself and others? And that, for me, is where actual human dignity and respect for other people's dignity and our own comes from, is that respect of the innocence of everyone's heart. And that I'm being told not to spend too much time on this specific thing, but yes, people do take actions that corrupt themselves and others. But that is whether we should respect someone as someone we should trust is very different than just respecting basic human dignity based on the basic innocence that is inborn into every human heart, regardless of whether they have chosen to respect that themselves as their life goes on. I hope that makes sense. I'm being told not to dwell on that part, but some of you might need to hear that, because sometimes we do get it very twisted, what respect means and what it means to respect someone else as opposed to respect ourselves. And if you've been ingrained with this shame brainwashing, you may have been taught to respect other people as an authority when they did not even respect you as a human being with basic dignity. And to respect that individual as a basic human being with dignity is very different than to trust them as an authority, respect them as an authority, regardless of how they treat you. You can respect them as a human being and still also respect yourself as a human being, and therefore not tolerate their BS. And I think some of you might need to hear that. That is a huge part of this, like, cutting ties. Yep, I'm no longer tolerating this. I respect myself. I have too much of this softness and love and compassion for myself to tolerate that from anyone else. No matter how much I love them, no matter how much I can see that they believe they love me and simply have had their own ideas of what love means warped beyond recognition. No matter how much I understand that, I still love myself too much to put up with that abuse, because it does not have to be intentional, in my opinion, to be abusive or to have harmful impact. I'm not going to put up with something that's harmful to me, regardless of whether the person meant to do it or not, or meant to have that impact or not, or whether they love me or not, whether I believe them or not. I'm still not going to put up with it. And that is, I'm being told, the core of your rebirth. That I'm choosing to respect and love myself too much to put up with disrespect is creating the birth of this sun, your solar plexus chakra, your awareness of your own light and power, your power to step away from someone, even if you don't really feel the emotion of self-love yet, to respect yourself enough to step away from what is not good for you. And that brings you full circle to your own heart, your own light, your own empowerment, your free will. It brings you to the root of your being in your free will. And that allows you to no longer be the snake or salamander eating its own tail, but to shed the skin and to embody the fire and mastery of the King of Wands, to become your own inspiration in some cases, or to follow what truly inspires you. And you are being led with this Ten of Cups and the King of Wands. Whether it's imminent or whether it's farther down the line is going to be different for all of you, but you are being led on a path where you are going to inspire others. Some of you may already just be inspiring other family members by cutting ties with certain specific family members who are poisoning the well of the whole bloodline. That's a very strong message for some of you. Others of you are going to become people who inspire other queer youth in the future, or other queer adults in the future, or who inspire your children and heal your own ancestral karma or bloodline by doing that. And all of you are in the process of embodying what inspires you, such that you really see someone you respect in the mirror, and your own past self is becoming your biggest inspiration, because you see what you put up with and you survived, and you go, that version of me didn't deserve that. And I am inspired by how strong they were to even survive that, to rescue them from that fire, and to keep on rescuing myself every single day and be my own hero. And by doing that out loud, finding other people who are also their own heroes, and who also say, hey, if I see the chance, I'm not gonna put someone else in the position of having to be their own hero. I will step in and help as well. And when these helpers all get together, there's a power of community and found family that is so strong, so tight-knit. That tight-woven community support message was a big part of Pile 1, so that's another synchronicity there. There was a message about being gender nonconforming in pile 2 as well. So for some of you who are really resonating with, as I do, the LGBT aspect of this message, you may have some messages in pile 2 as well. Again, you don't have to, but you might. I'm being drawn back to the Naked Heart Tarot to shuffle and bring through some more messages. Some more guidance for pile 3, please. You have become your own hope. You've become your own light at the end of the tunnel, and no one can mess with that. No one can take that away from you. You are becoming, pardon my language, but unfuckwithable, because you have, and some of you, you're just realizing this for the first time. Some of you, you've had this experience many times, but something recently, whether it's depression or or abandonment by a person or something else entirely, just a difficult life circumstance, something has gotten you down recently, and you're remembering, rediscovering, like, wait a second, I cannot be downtrodden for long, because I am the light at the end of the tunnel. I am my own hope. No one can ever take that away from me. I am the one who's gotten myself out of so many situations. No matter who abandons or neglects or mistreats or misuses me, or just uses me, period, that's not a reflection on my self-worth or my power or my free will, my agency, my self-determination. They can't define me. If you've ever watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I want to say it's in season 4, but don't quote me on that. There's a great moment where someone is attacking her and saying that she has no one else, none of her friends are there to help her or protect her, and they're trying to belittle her about this, and they come at her with a sword, and she catches the sword between her hands before it can cut her, and she's catching the flat of the sword so it's not cutting her hands either, and she stares this person directly in the eyes, and they're above her and she's on the ground, but she so clearly is so much more powerful than them in this moment where she catches their sword right in front of her nose and she says, I have me. And that power is everything. It's everything. Like, I'm being almost moved to tears in this reading, you folks. It's everything. And it does not mean that you are in any way limited to only ever having that power and not also having communal power and the power of being loved in return. But this self-respect and free will is everything in terms of you determining your own outcomes in life, you becoming surrounded by people who also respect you because you will not settle for less. In terms of you making choices that are truly aligned with yourself. We were talking about that spiritual connection with your true inner being, your true soul self. You making choices in alignment with yourself, and that are gentle and compassionate to yourself, choosing to be more and more like the universe or like source or like God in how you treat yourself, to treat yourself the way that you would hope a loving and compassionate and kind God would, to treat yourself with that same tenderness and care and gentleness that you would hope someone would treat a kitten or a baby, or that you would hope a loving God would treat anyone and anything in its whole universe. Heart of Wands. The Queen of Wands has come out to match the King. Wow. Excuse me. So sorry about the cough. Some of you are coming into alignment with a divine counterpart for the Queen and the King to come out in this reading. And it may be opening up to your own sexuality that does this for you. I'm really kind of getting choked up here because this message is so beautiful. I'm seeing the hope and innocence on this little fox face coming out of hiding, out of the bushes, out of the flowers, and poking its head out and going, is it safe to come out? Which is not normally how I read the Queen of Wands at all. The Queen of Wands is very confident, but there's this process, this journey you are on to develop and validate that confidence that you already have within you. Otherwise, it would have been quite difficult. Well, not that it wasn't, but you have this confidence within you, and it coming out to play, coming out to shine. It's like you're on this journey to embody this Queen of Wands energy. This, I can come out to play. I can be sassy and seductive. I can be social and be likable and liked without having to fake it. My genuine, real self can be liked without me trying to be quote-unquote likable. And we have these matching wands lighting each other up. I'm hearing that song from Rent, Will You Light My Candle? That's not the name of the song, but heck if I can remember that right now. And the flowers in this card happen to look a little bit spiky, but flowers are very delicate. When they open up their blossoms, they require a little bit of handling with care. And that's the feeling that I'm getting from this particular Queen of Wands, is this like, is it safe to open up here? Or in the past, you know, if I opened up, my petals would have been torn away. But I can feel my heart starting to open up now that I have stepped forward as my own King of Wands, my own hero, my own protector. I can feel my heart, with the Heart of Wands here, being willing to follow and step forward and open up and go, oh, if I'm capable of protecting myself, it's safe for me to open my petals and let them be seen. Because if anyone even gets near me, even gets within a 10-foot pole of me with these wands here, with any sort of intention or vibration radiating from them of wanting to take, wanting to use, wanting to pick the petals or pick at me in any way, I can protect myself before they even get near me, because I know how to do that now. And I trust in myself to do that now. And that trust in myself then opens me up to be able to trust others and experience this 10 of Cups, community, partnership, family, love. Yes, this divine union within you, making space for the possibility of real trust in relationships, which could potentially lead to this divine union without or outside. As within, so without has been a big message in all three readings here. This rainbow of joy and colors within you is interwoven with the rainbow of joy that you get to experience in the external world and in living life vibrantly and lovingly and moving through life with an awareness that you carry love within you and that you deserve love and that you have love available from the universe to be poured into you at any time by your own choices to act lovingly towards yourself, by your choices of who you surround yourself with, and making sure that you do not surround yourself with people who aren't willing to pour into you. Yeah, such a powerful message. Okay, sorry for the sudden lighting change. I had to pause recording to take care of a few things, and it started to get dark here, so I had to close the shades and turn on the ring light. What I was about to say is that with the Spirit and Heart of Wands here, the King and Queen of Wands, excuse me, I am also, even more than a romantic energy, getting a best friend energy, and I'm specifically hearing new best friend. However, I am getting a few different meanings here. One is definitely being your own best friend, with what we were just discussing about being your own ally, advocate, and protector, being your own hero such that you feel safe to open up because you know you've got your own back and will not continue to open up in ways that allow your boundaries to be violated once you realize that that is in danger of happening in a situation. Trusting your own discernment there. And being your own best friend is definitely a powerful part of this reading. But I'm also, especially with this 10 of Cups energy combined with the Spirit and Heart of Wands here, getting you making a new best friend as you kind of reach out to the world, embodying your own best self or simply fullest self, that full rainbow of yourself. Yes, there was more that was coming through too before, but it's left my brain now, so we're going to keep pulling the cards, and whatever needs to come back through, I trust Spirit will return to me and channel again so that I can bring it back through. 8 of Swords. This is the most gorgeous 8 of Swords I think I've ever seen. This is exactly what we were just talking about with the flower opening up, when and where it is safe for it to open up, though. Except in this case, this is specifically highlighting the areas in which, in the past, and maybe even up to now, your own mind has been a minefield for your authenticity, for your true self, your inner child, your innocence. There have been thorns and traps in your thoughts, potentially laid by other people. We were talking about a little bit of brainwashing or programming from your upbringing previously. So a lot of times, really the worst part with that sort of situation is not the isolated times when parents or caregivers or adults did or said something to us, but the way those voices become part of the fabric of our internal reality and how we talk to ourselves. And that doesn't have to be what you consider the worst part, but it can be one of the worst parts, because that is the part that doesn't end when the situation ends, that doesn't go away when the person is no longer in your life. And in the Eight of Swords, traditionally the swords are forming a cage around the person, but the person is actually perfectly capable of walking between the swords and escaping the cage. In this situation, in this card with the thorns around the rose, what I'm really getting is actually that the swords in your mind can be turned to cutting away the thorns to allow you to heal. Somewhat similar to how the thorns on a rose naturally are actually the thorn's defense mechanism against predators rather than being turned against the rose itself. So there is a transmutation internally of parts of you that have previously hurt you or self-sabotaged into your own allies. And this has been a theme through all three piles. So that is clearly the overarching rebirth that a whole lot of people in the world, or in this collective specifically, are going through right now. And really strongly being highlighted with the combination of the Three of Swords reversed and the Eight of Swords here. It's like you're plucking the sword out of your chest and then using it to cut away the poisonous thorns that are attempting to eat away at your heart, and then also using it, like your stick here, to fight off any invaders is the word I want to use, funnily enough, so that your rose, your daisy, your wings have a safe place to unfurl and heal, and then for you to practice flying, practice blooming, practice connecting with others in a safe way, in a way that is, that feels safe for you. So meeting with people in group settings where there's a little bit of safety, where you know you can leave whenever you want, you know you can turn your attention to the greater group if speaking with a specific person isn't working for you, things like that. LGBT support groups or fun groups, especially with Pride this month, LGBT speed dating, especially with the, as I said that about the speed dating, I just got this image of the ends of these wands sparking. So especially with the potential for the friendship that we're getting with the Spirit and Heart of Wands to potentially be ignited into a spark or a flame that is more romantic in nature, if that's something that you want and decide to be open to coming into your life, then I think there is a potential for that kindle to be lit and sustained there. So interesting. I wonder what's up with that imagery. I was just given an image of the cups and the Ten of Cups, the water in them lighting on fire in a very playful and joyous and creative way. Playful and joyous in this artistic, creative, expressive way. I'm hearing opposites attract now as well, which is very interesting, because I've been getting some messages recently about connections that are mirroring in a positive way, where you have certain things in common that make it so that you get each other and so that they click. But there's something coming through in this specific instance about fire and water clicking in such a way that you actually light each other up. And they're saying not to say any more about that, that you'll get it if and when it's meant for you. So maybe some of you are about to go to an event and your interaction with someone will remind you of that and be confirmation that, you know, you're on the right track with getting to know this person. Or I'm actually getting a message that in addition to it being applicable to your relationships with other people, the fire and water element relates to your relationship with yourself. The flow, nourishment, soothing, gentle, self-mothering energy of water being brought to parts of you that have been parched and have been burnt out. And then the fire of creativity and inspiration and expression being brought to parts of you that have been hidden, stagnant, stuck, scared to come out, scared to stand up for themselves, scared to speak their truth. So a really interesting internal exchange there. As you integrate more and more parts of yourself, you have access to more and more parts of yourself in more and more situations, so that you can bring these parts of you to bear in response to situations where they're needed, when in the past you might have felt like you didn't have access to that nourishing, motherly, holy water within you, those ocean waves of love within you, at times when you really could have used it. Or you might have felt like your fire was frozen at times when you really could have used it under your butt or under your feet or at your fingertips to fight the good fight or own your boundaries and enforce them, or go after something with drive and passion and determination instead of giving up too soon. Some of you are being told to not give up too soon about a specific person, in specifically a romantic sense, and to actually go after them. That's not for everyone. I don't think everyone in this pile is even going to really be interested in romance. I think some of you may be asexual or aromantic from the energy I'm getting from this collective. But there's more than one of you who are getting this message of like going after the type of relationship that you want with this specific person. Would not be chasing them. It would not be violating their boundaries. It would not be pursuing them in like a stalkerish way. Definitely like examine that. If you have any concern about violating their boundaries, it's very important to examine that, and it's good that you are concerned about that. But there's a sense here of someone questioning themselves, like, am I being too pushy, when actually you would just be expressing that you care and expressing what you want, and those are normal things to do. And sometimes we have a skewed perception of what is normal to do in relationships when we've been taught certain really backwards or twisted things about what love is and what love means, like we've been talking about. Or if you've simply been taught to sit down and shut up, and to not have needs, and to never express what you want because you won't get it anyway, or in fact you might even be less likely to get it in abusive situations if you actually express it, because they might specifically try to take it away because you said you wanted it. And those types of conditioning are starting to fall away, and you're being asked specifically, some of you, to examine. Okay, what I'm getting is this message does apply to all of you, but for a bunch of you, it's about like a creative pursuit or something else you want in life, and for a few of you, it's about a person. So you're being called to examine your relationship with desire and with proactive going after what you desire, owning it, expressing it, instead of shying away from being like, oh, I'm not really allowed to want things, or it'll be considered cringy if I want things, or I'll be shamed for how weird it is for me to want this, when none of those things are necessarily true in your current situation. And also how you react to them now would be different. Like if someone did try to shame you for it, you'd just kind of tell them to screw off, most likely, or just walk away without saying anything and just not give them the time of day. But a few of you, it's specifically about a person where, like, don't just give up on this connection so easily because of the voices from the past. there's something real here, something worth fighting for. And whatever, I'm being drawn back to the Eight of Swords. Whatever conflict, whatever wounds have been dealt with in this relationship, if it has not been toxic, but there's just been misunderstandings and you've just been afraid to own what you want, and maybe there's been just one or two instances of lashing out at each other out of self-defense rather than it being a toxic pattern, then there's something worth fighting for there. Trust your gut. It can be difficult to trust what you feel when you're recovering from conditioning that has really warped things for you. So take some time out to breathe if you aren't sure what your gut is saying. But if you are really clearly getting like, no, this doesn't apply to the connections that I've been in, then don't take that piece of advice about a connection. Take that piece of advice about something that you've been scared to go after, or something else you've been afraid to admit you want, out of life, out of family. Maybe you've been scared to admit that you want to have a family in the future. Something you've been shy about pursuing creatively because you're worried about not being good at it when you really just deserve the chance to get good at it, just like anyone else. And for some of you, it's that in this practice of relationship, you and the other person in this relationship deserve to practice with each other and develop a good connection and good trust together, rather than giving up just because of one or two conflicts. That's the advice I'm being given. If it's been more than one or two, lay it to rest, let it be. Don't go back to a situation where you're just going to repeat another cycle of a pattern that is not good for you. But if it's just been one or two instances and you are feeling really genuine, deep caring about the other person and not just about what you get from them, or what you miss when they're not around, but really care about, if you really care about how the other person feels, then give it a chance for that to be mutual. Express that caring and express what you want and give the other person a chance to care about you in return. And if they don't, then you'll know you tried, and it's not a statement about you going forward that this time didn't work out. That was an unexpected little message. I'm getting the Nine of Cups here as well. This particular Nine of Cups has the moon on it, which is not in every Nine of Cups card. The Nine of Cups energy does speak to me a little bit more along the lines of going after something you want, whereas the Ten of Cups speaks a little bit more to the overflow of having more than enough of that thing that you want, so much so that you can share it with everyone and everything you touch. The Nine of Cups speaks to the reward of, before you get to that complete overflow part, the reward of, I do have enough. I can feel really satisfied and happy within myself after having gone after what I wanted and experiencing having enough. And there is, with the moon here, this element of the unconscious becoming conscious, of shadow work, as we spoke about with the Three of Swords reversed too, and even the Eight of Swords. And we have the moon underneath the sun here. So yes, definitely bringing the light to this subconscious, and getting honest about what you want, because when you've been shamed for it in the past, you may not even realize yet how many things about yourself you don't know, because whether it was that they directly were made not okay, or they were in some way in your heart associated with something else that was made not okay, and so you just never even looked at it, never even looked its way. And so as you do shadow work, parts of you are going to be revealed, not only that you didn't know, but that want things that you didn't know you wanted, that might even be antithetical to what you thought you wanted previously. Similar to my example about maybe you never thought you wanted a family and now you do, and that's okay. It's okay for that to change. It doesn't mean your previous desires were invalid, but it also doesn't mean that you should invalidate your current or new desires to try and maintain your previous identity. It's time to shed that skin. It's time for the moon to enter a new phase, to grow fuller. You know, when the moon becomes full, it's simply that the light of the sun has been able to reach and access more of the moon's surface so that we can see more of it. And that's why the moon is such a symbol of the unconscious becoming conscious, because more and more of it gets revealed as it grows into its full phase. And you are the same way as you emerge from the darkness of the way that other people didn't want to know you and simply wanted to project what they thought you should be, wanted you to be, needed you to be, thought was appropriate for you, on you. You may have carried that in how you related to yourself, deciding unconsciously, I'm only going to be X, Y, and Z, and then it turns out that actually you're the whole alphabet, the whole rainbow, as we've been talking about. And you get to reinvent yourself, and you get to find out. The coolest part maybe not the coolest part, but one of the coolest parts, in my opinion and experience, I think I would stand by, actually, for me, the coolest part of reinventing yourself is finding out what actually still stays the same. Because it's really, really cool to develop that sense of, this is something I can come home to within myself. So for me, for example, it's loving love. No matter what phase of my life I'm in, I love love stories. I love expressions of love in the world, in myself. I love romance. I love friendship. And what forms that comes to me in or comes out of me in might change, but that is something I can always come home to in myself. Reading a romance novel is something that will always remind me of who I am, no matter how different one romance novel is from another. Reading things where people are in love with each other, in love with their friends, in love with their romantic partners will always remind me of who I am and make me more of myself. Watching a really good rom-com. And that is a real tangible and yet sometimes lighthearted way in which love does conquer all for me personally. No matter what else changes about me, I know that that doesn't. And there are other things too, but that one is probably the one that I use the most often as a touchstone, because those love stories are part of how I self-soothe. And you might have things like that you've been able to use in all stages of your life. You might have touchstones like that you actually felt you had to abandon for some time or neglect for some time because of circumstances you were in, or you were shamed for that, or didn't have certain resources, didn't have certain friends even, is something I'm hearing. Didn't have certain people in your corner, didn't have a safe space for certain things. I'm actually getting an image of someone having had art projects and someone else in the home destroying the art projects. I'm getting two specific images there. One with paintings getting destroyed and one with knitting projects getting destroyed. And if that did happen to you, then I am so sorry. That's an awful thing for someone to do to anyone else, especially someone who's supposed to be someone who cares about you and who is trustworthy. And for some of you, that's going to be more metaphorical, where your enthusiasm or passion or interest in certain things was crapped on or targeted by people around you. But it may also have been literal for some of you. And I really want to give you folks a big hug and a whole bunch of knitting and painting supplies, because you deserve to have those interests enabled and encouraged, and made not only safe but joyful and respected as part of source, as part of your expression of you being a part of the universe, a fractal of the universe, an aspect, a face of God underneath a human face, because that's why source is my favorite name for God or the universe, because it is the source of all life. That's such a better name for me personally than creator, because the word source carries within it, in English, the understanding that the creator and the creation are not separate. It's just like a water source. The ocean is not separate from the rivers it's a source of. They are one and the same. It's just a current within the ocean. And that's you, like the same force that creates planets and stars and humans and animals and plants and flowers and snakes and wings and roses and the moon itself, is also working in and through you to create your own artistic expression. And that should be Ten of Cups joyful. It deserves to be Ten of Cups joyful, something you do in community and offer to community and feel received. You feel that artistic expression being received by others and rejoiced in by others. And wow, that's so cool that you made that. Wow, I love it. I want to have one for myself. Let me work with you, that sort of thing. Yeah, we have the Queen of Pentacles, the Heart of Pentacles. So that is very much expressing your creations into the world, into the physical, and creating a world and a life that is of your own design and reflects your desires and your values. And I love that we have the roses in this card, and we had the roses in the Eight of Swords, because these roses are free of thorns. And we also have the Taurus energy here with the bull, and the earthy energy of the Queen of Pentacles, the slow, steady, methodical energy of tending to yourself. You tend to your fields and your livestock. You tend to your flower garden, your rose garden. You gently remove the weeds, and that's what makes this creative expression not only a joyful outburst once in a while, but a sustainable part of your everyday life. Real self-love energy is what I'm really getting from the Heart of Pentacles here. Tangibly, physically pouring, making your life an expression of love for yourself and for your life itself. For some of you, that may be spiritual, like it is for me, where your life is an expression of love for source and life itself. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be like, what's really grounding here is that it's an expression of love for you and for your life, and treating your life as a garden where you are the garden and are its steward, just like we were talking about the Heart of Wands and the Spirit of Wands, the flower and the fire that protects the flower. You relating to yourself as both the garden and the steward of the garden is a very empowering place to be, and it's a very sustainable place to be, where there's a mix of gentleness and firmness, a mix of groundedness and really pouring the water of love and dreaming, letting yourself dream so that you can plant those dreams in the garden and make them real, a real mixture of the groundedness and the airiness there, and of the water element as well that flows through the garden, irrigates the garden, and allows it to grow. And the light of the sun within you is what allows your garden to grow as well. So this brings us full circle back to one of the first cards we drew. We also have the Knight of Cups here, the movement of cups. I think of the Knight of Cups as the ultimate, I've come to think of it as the ultimate self-love card. I started off doing these readings thinking of it as the ultimate suitor card, which I still agree with. It is still the ultimate romantic suitor card. But I also now think of it as the ultimate self-love card, because every single time without fail that the Knight of Cups has come out reversed in a reading I've been doing, it's come to me with an energy from Spirit of self-love is needed here. Gentleness with self is needed here. Allowing yourself to receive and be poured into, whether by yourself or by others or by Spirit, is needed here. And to have it upright really shows you being accepting of that, ready for that, letting your garden be poured into with clean water and not poisoned water like you've experienced in the past. And it becoming so plentiful that you can swim around in it like a whale. We have this so perfect next to the reinvention card with the ocean, and it's so perfect to have the whale next to that beautiful ocean, because you get to go from being contained in this little puddle of dirty water to having a whole clean ocean to splash around in. And there are so many fish and so many plants So this applies to the garden metaphor and the ocean metaphor. So many beings that grow to the size that they are allowed to, you know, fish that grow to the size of that their aquarium can sustain, plants that grow to the size that their pot will allow their roots to be contained in. And so taking away this veil and letting yourself expand out into the world, you might have always thought you were a guppy, and suddenly you're growing and discovering that you're a whale. I'm getting shown that classic explanation of the concept of learned helplessness, how, this always makes me really sad, how when a baby elephant grows up in captivity, when they grow into adulthood, they're more than big enough to simply drag the chain that is around one ankle with them and walk away from their captors, but because they were not big enough to do that when they were a baby, they experience learned helplessness and don't realize that they could actually just walk away from their captors. And that learned helplessness, I think, is really at the core of the veil that you have been tearing away or dissolving in these waters of self-love. And it does really, I seriously want to cry every time I think about that baby elephant. But seeing this gorgeous whale playing and jumping and swimming around shows me, and also it was the fact that the whale came out under the bowl that really made me realize that too, because I imagine that could happen to a calf that grew into a bowl the same way it could happen to a baby elephant. You know, the bull not knowing its own strength and being so gentle and community-minded in wielding it, because cows are extremely empathic, and community-oriented creatures, which you'd think humans would have realized to expect from any flock-based, herd-based creature by now, but we forget it so much about ourselves that I think we also forget it about other species as well, how much we really need each other. So there's a gentleness with yourself, a playfulness as you grow into a much more expansive, a whole new world. That song is playing in my mind now. And this embodying your power in a way that is gentle and playful and loving and family-oriented in whatever way family speaks to you. You know, creating harmony in your internal family of parts within yourself, reparenting yourself, fostering found family with your friends rather than merely casual friendships, being brave enough to deepen those friendships and to show people that you care rather than just wanting to hang out with them. And that deep depth of caring, creating this gorgeous garden that the cows get to frolic around, and this gorgeous ocean, this safety for the whale to play in. That's really the note Spirit is wanting to end on, is that expansiveness, creating this safety within which you can play and bloom and radiate. At the back of the deck, we have the Three of Wands. So this is showcasing that sunlight. The sunlight emerging over the horizon from the dark night, as we talked about at the very beginning. It's showcasing not only the brightness, but also the warmth of that. So similar to how we're talking about kind of creating this safe haven, this hearth that friends and family can gather around, both yourself being a hearth for your own parts of self. I'm sorry, I keep stuttering, folks. And you having that environment in your friendships. The threes in tarot are always very collaborative. The Three of Swords often in a bit more destructive of a way, but the Three of Cups and Three of Pentacles are all about friendship and collaboration, and the Three of Wands is all about setting out on a new journey. And it can be a solo journey, but I really find that the journey this group is going on is all about embarking on the brand new adventure of being yourself around other people and discovering the joys that opens up to you, the safe spaces to play and be yourself and create and express and be artistic. And you discovering that you can have those safe spaces within yourself when you're alone, if being alone has always felt kind of scary to you. And you can have those safe places with other people if being authentic around other people has always felt scary to you. We have this solid pyramid in the Three of Wands showing you creating like a safe, stable structure that is built around the sun that is within you, around your true heart, passions, values, the expression of your truest, most creative, most authentic, most playful, joyful, loving, radiant, kind, and helpful self. A life full of warmth and softness, and with the structures and firm, hard boundaries that are needed to protect that and to encase it so that it can travel, so that it can go on adventures, so that you can experience a whole new world without ever leaving yourself behind or abandoning yourself. You do not have to be left in the dust anymore. Thank you so much for being here, Pile 3. I truly hope the messages have been helpful and have resonated with you, have rung true for you, have struck a chord with you, and are as meaningful to you as they are to me, because they always are so meaningful to me. I would love to hear from you, especially if you are getting out there, making friends, and celebrating Pride Month. I would dearly love to hear about that. As a non-binary and bisexual woman myself, that means the world to me. I would love to hear all about your adventures with queer community. That would make me so happy. Feel free to also get in touch via my website if you are interested in a personal reading. And otherwise, I'll see you next time.